Okay, guys, this is a short review of the simple past. We already saw it on last period, okay? But it's important that you review the verbs in past, in simple past, because there are some activities on the English discoveries on Unit 1 and 2 that we need to use the simple past. Also, well, we have some activities on the next test on the final test, and it's important that you remember that we have two different types of action. In simple past or past simple, we have the regular and irregular form. Remember that the regular form are the ones that you just add d or ed, and that's it. Play, played, stay, stayed, jump, jump, listen, listened, travel, traveled, for to say some examples. Um, so it's important that you remember that not because the action ends in Y are going to be regular or irregular. Some actions that end in Y, like play, stay, enjoy, etc., you have to add ed. But others, like cry, okay, or like fly, are going to change, okay. So you need to pay attention of that. Also for the irregular form, well, the action stays the same, like for example, cut, cut, or read, change just the pronunciation, but the word writes the same. Read, read, but you're going to pronounce it read in simple past. Or maybe change one letter, like have, like make, made, okay, instead of K, we use the D. Or maybe change the entire word, like go changes to went, okay, do changes to did, etc. Okay, so pay attention and remember what actions are regular and what are irregular. Okay, for the verb to be, remember that the verb to be has its own form to conjugate the word. Okay, instead of is, and are, we're going to work with was, and were. Was is for singular, were is for plural. The negative is going to be wasn't for singular, weren't for plural. Okay, or was not is the same as wasn't, or were not is the same as weren't. And for question, remember that always the question begins with the auxiliary. If you're working with the verb to be, it comes was first and then the pronoun and then the complement, or were for plural and then the pronoun and then the complement. So please remember that the verb to be is different, has its own way to do the negative form, the positive form, and the question. Okay, but if you're working with regular and irregular actions, well, you have to pay attention in how the word is written. Okay, remember that you have a list of actions here on the right space. We have a list of verbs. Okay, I send it to you again, and you have here many examples of regular actions, the ones that I'm saying that you just have to add d or ed. For example, dance ends in e, you just have to add just the d. But detect ends in t, and you have to add ed. And also you have more examples of regular actions, regular. But then you have a list of the most common irregular verbs, okay? It's not about learning all of them, but it's important that you review the most common actions. For example, read, get, do, fall, break, etc. Okay? So it's important that you pay attention to this and that you review and you study the actions, okay? So we were saying how to work with the simple past of the actions, okay? And now to make a statement in affirmative, okay? In affirmative, as you know, to make a statement we need a pronoun, name, or subject. If you're going to work with if you're going to work with I, he, she, and it, we're going to use was, if you're working with the verb to be, as I already said, right? And for negative is wasn't, okay? Now, if you're working with we, you, and they, well, we need to work with were, and the negative is weren't, okay? And if you are going to make a question, well, the question begins with was or were. Now, for the rest of the actions, okay, the rest of the actions, we need, of course, a pronoun, a name, or a subject. In this case, we have some examples. Vero is the subject or the name. And then traveled, okay, is the action in past. And then the complement, last year to Europe, okay. Also, Jackie went to the cinema with her friends. I'm sorry, I have a mistake. Cinema with her friends. My parents ate lasagna yesterday. So if you have singular or plural names, the only thing that you have to put is the action in past, okay? The action in past. If it is a regular form, you have to add ed. If it is an irregular, you have to change the action. For example, instead of go is went. Now for negative, remember that for negative, okay, for negative actions, we need to use didn't, okay? For example, here we have, okay, positive, negative, and question. For example, Pam didn't travel to Acapulco. Pam is singular, okay, but in negative is didn't, and the action has to stay in the same way, in the same form, in the base form, okay? The same happens with plural. In plural, we have the names also didn't, but the action stays in the base form. So for singular and plural names, we need the auxiliary didn't and then the action in the base form, okay? The same happens for the question. The question begins with did and then the plural name or singular name and then the action in the base form. Please review